You know, when I was but a sprog, I put a lot of hours into GTA San Andreas. I'd spend hours driving around the sandbox, causing mayhem, dressing up as I pleased, stealing cars as I saw fit, and even occasionally doing the missions. I mean, let's face it though, I was mostly there for the cheat codes, which was like why 96% of us even played that game. I remember thinking, wow, if only there was a crime sandbox game that wasn't crap. Because when I played San Andreas, I had all sorts of problems with it back in the day, like the draw distance was terrible, cars handled like shit, controls was genuinely just stiff, the games looked ugly as sin, and the narrative is just utter white noise. Look, you might have some fond nostalgia for the GTA series in general, I sort of do myself, but come on, it's not a very good series, at least arguably not until 5. All the other games don't really hold up. I guess 4 is okay. I mean, I don't really care for 4 or 5, but I can see how they're better, even if they still control like shit. But just contrast something like GTA to the Saints Row games, which did start as shitty GTA knockoffs. I say knockoffs, it's mostly the first one was a knockoff apparently. I didn't play it. But then they took the time to evolve, and it did so quite nicely, at least in my eyes. Saints Row the Third, Remastered, which by the way, it's a remaster of Saints Row the Third if you hadn't figured that one out, is a good game which is fun, and it does what GTA does, just better. Again, I think so, please don't murder me. Of the entire Saints Row series, 4 is definitely my favourite. It's very entertaining, although, you know, Saints Row 3 is still a pretty decent game as well, even if it doesn't have aliens and superpowers, or a robot that sucks you off. Maybe I should reconsider this. If you don't know the Saints Row series, then let me quickly fill you in. The Third Street Saints, which the games revolve around, are a street gang who do naughty crime, but by the time of Saints Row 3, they're pop culture sellouts. And it's up to you to decide which version of them is more evil. Energy drinks, clothing lines, a movie deal, sex toys, you name it, and the Saints are doing it and making bank. But this life of luxury begins to bore our beloved serial killers, and so they decide to do what they do best and get back in touch with their roots by robbing a bank in broad daylight, whilst dressed in mascot outfits of one of the gang's most infamous members, Johnny Gat. Yeah, in case you couldn't tell, this game is just a little bit silly, just a little bit, only a little bit silly. The heist mission serves as your tutorial for the combat, you learn your shooting and how to use NPCs as human shields. Also, there's already a lot of humour in the writing at this point, which is something the game absolutely nails. Like, very few lines in this game that are meant to be funny fail to amuse me in some way. At least in my opinion, it's all good. And let's remember that good writing can be very important for games like this. Anyway, the bank heist goes bad. You're about to get away with the entire bank vault using explosives and a helicopter.
Let's get this bank back to a hideout and we'll break into it later.
But then you and your crew are arrested and thrown in the slammer. This is where you make your character. It's a rather good character creator, actually. You got lots of hairs to pick from, lots of different colours. I mean, you can make your skin purple if you want to, which I almost did, but I'm sort of moving away from that now. You can sculpt your face as you please. There's some decent editing there. You can do that quite well. You can make yourself as fat or muscular or thin as you like, which is lovely. And you can also enhance your sex appeal. Wink wink. You can also choose your voice, and this isn't just a situation where we choose what noise we want to make when we get shot occasionally. No, we basically choose a full-on personality. In Saints Row 3, your character is fully voiced. They get to actually interact with the people. They have conversations, and in my opinion, the voice actors do a really good job.
The Syndicate has to answer for what they did. And this time, we're taking the fight to them. Since we don't know Steelport, I brought in some people who do. This is Kenzie, Zimos, and Angel.
It grants a real sense of agency and personality to the character. They're not just a slab of meat with a stupid haircut. They're an actual character. We may choose how they look, but the game still makes the effort to tell us who they are. I wish more games did this. You'd get a nice marrying of the personal touches, which might be your pink hair or your giant mustache, but then you've actually got the character beneath that, and it's, you know, I find I'm more engaged when I get to make the character. I think of things like Monster Hunter World or even the delightful Dark Souls series to which I recently got married. In both games, your character is designed by you, but they just stand there in silence like a gormless idiot as people talk to them and as events unfold.
What a sick joke. Asking us to seek the Lords of Cinder.
I am a knight of Katarina. I've managed to track down this cathedral's store of treasure. It's right over there, across that narrow part.
What do you want? This is my study that you've happened upon. If you haven't any business, I've reading to get back to.
Look, I don't hate the silent protagonist. It's not a bad thing, it could work, but it's a bit played out. It's always nice when, you know, Games make the effort. Anyway, after we make our person, we're treated to this little interaction. We soon find out why we can't just pay the police to look the other way this time. It's because someone paid them more for us. Long story short, a negotiation with a rival gang on a behemoth of a plane goes south. One of our members gets stabbed and we have to gun our way out and drop down to the town of Steelport below. Well, not directly down onto it. Here's what we actually do. First, we fight our way through the plane with lots of shooting and violence. Then we get to the cargo bay. Our mate ends up falling out before she can grab a parachute. So we have to leap out with a parachute and catch her before she hits the ground. Once we catch her, we end up dropping her again because the plane's coming towards us and our character's bright idea is to dive through the windshield, kill the pilot, do a bit more violence, and then leap out to catch her again. And this works. And you've got to do this all whilst being shot by rival gang members which seem more interested in killing you than they do in preserving their own bloody lives. It's not quite foiling a terrorist nuke by climbing onto it and disarming it mid-flight before landing in the Oval Office and declaring yourself president at a Saints Row 4. But it's close in terms of entertainment factor. I've got to say, Saints Row 3 and 4, they have some of my favourite opening missions of any video game. They do an absolutely perfect job of, displaying exactly what kind of game we're playing. Anyway, we're in Steelport now, which is your typical New York City knockoff that you see in most of these crime sandbox thingies. We're left with no money, no cars, no guns, and our only homie is Shandy, who we almost, killed by dropping them mid-flight. Anyway, we set out to rebuild the Saints in an all-new city. One of the first things we do is rob a military base so we can get the guns we need. That was fun. I got to use a drone to kill tanks with missiles. Nice. I mean, not so nice for the hard-working mothers and fathers that I murdered, but it was a fun mission, is my point. I'll admit, the story does seem to be chugging along at a hell of a pace by this point, but it's kind of a Saints Row thing. It's just what these games do, that they kind of go from A to fucking Z. But they do so entertainingly enough, so I don't really hold it against them. Most of the game is based around calling your mates, rushing over to them to do an activity, and then rinse and repeat. Doing so introduces the activities you get to do, by the way. Once you've done one instance of each activity, the rest of the instances of it become available all over the city. It's a very nice take off the reins sort of approach. I can really dig this. Most of the activities are fun. My favourites were the mayhem ones, where you're basically just given infinite ammo, infinite grenades and all that, and you just go nuts. You cause as much damage to the streets as possible. It's a lot of fun. And the fraud instances where you basically just go and play in traffic. You get tossed around by cars, you get knocked into the air, and the longer you stay in the air, you get more points. It's hilarious. I just love it. Although a few of these activities you get to do are basically just escort quests. But thankfully, your AI partners can usually fend for themselves. When they've got guns, they're competent enough, and if they haven't, they usually are smart enough to just get in your car so you can get the fuck away. The vast majority of activities are fun, from the game show where you murder mascots to the Tron-style motorbike sequences, so yeah, I cannot be too mad. The escorty ones really don't bother me that much because there's plenty of fun to be had elsewhere, and almost all of them are entirely optional. I'll admit though, the one where you're escorting a tiger in a car is kind of fun because you've got to avoid these animal rights activists, and occasionally the tiger tries to eat you if you piss it off. I think it's the concept of the mission that actually amuses me, because sometimes you even have to power slide to calm the tiger down. I don't know how that works in context, but it's entertaining enough. Gameplay is quite good, save for a couple of response issues here and there. Nothing major, just occasionally it would fail to register my melee attacks, which, I just switched to guns. It's not that hard. And, handling in general just feels quite good. It's all smooth enough, and yeah, it's lovely. One detail I like in this game is how all the cars handle very differently. And so I had plenty of fun diving in and out of windows, because you can do that. You can just run towards a car and press the one button, and you jump into the car and nick it. It's fucking brilliant. You can spend ages diving in and out of cars to see which one you want to stick with and pimp out. Speaking of cars, this is the car I chose to go with. It's called the Neuron in-game, I believe, and it's this pink beauty right here, this pink baby right here. It's got good controls, it's fun to power slide in, and it goes fast, but not too fast, so it still leaves you reaction time, which is good. It was my favourite one to customise. I mean, towards the end I did sort of make it black and pink because I like the colours more, but I did stick with pink for a while. I like that Homer Simpson style colour. That's 2 Simpsons references in one video. I'm doing so well. I should point out though, there doesn't seem to be a visible limit to how many vehicles you can store in your infinite storage box, and once they're in there you can edit them freely. You can apply different bumpers and colour schemes. It's lovely. I like it. I had my lovely pink car, a nice pink motorbike, a pink army truck. I had a lot of pink. I'm really getting into pink at the moment. I also had the Saints Row tank, a rather interesting armoured personnel carrier. The list goes on. There's a lot of stuff in there. Same goes for clothes and weapons, actually. You can store as many as you please in your cribs, which is basically your infinite storage box. I don't know why I didn't say cribs earlier. That would have made sense. And you can swap them out when you please whilst you're in them. By the way, these cribs, they serve as your safe houses. See, if you do too much naughty crime, then the policeman officers will do a chase you. Or if you murder too many of the occupying gang members, then they get very, very cross and you build up notoriety. The more notoriety you have, the more aggressive each force becomes. You've got two separate notoriety bars. Notoriety bars, got it right there. And each one fills up separately. The more you piss off the police, the more the police one goes up. The more you piss off the gang one goes up. It's quite simple. If shit really starts to hit the fan, though, all you have to do is hop in a car, drive to one of your safe houses, and as soon as you enter it, it just goes away without question. I'm a little on the fence here. You know, on the one hand, it's very useful from a gameplay standpoint. It's a good mechanic, it's just simple, there's no pissing about. But on the other, it feels a bit anticlimactic. I fight a one-woman war against an army of violent gangsters across the entire city. I piss off more police officers than anyone could possibly hope to piss off in their lives. And then I just dive into a random clothes shop and they're like, I guess she's gone. Oh well. Speaking of clothes shops, you can pop into one whenever you like to change your outfit whenever. Each item you purchase gives you some respect, which is basically the game's version of XP. The more respect, the more you level up, and the more useful skills you unlock, like more health, more ammo, take less bullet damage, or dual-wield pistols. I love how useful the upgrades in this game really are. They're really useful. Well done, Saints Row 3.
Hey, didn't you say something similar in your Kana review a few weeks ago? Wouldn't upgrades be usefuler by default? Isn't that the point of upgrades?
Why yes, you'd think so, wouldn't you? But a lot of games seem to forget this little requirement. When I played games like Watch Dogs and that new God of War, I say new God of War, it came out in 2016, both of them had extensive upgrade trees that I barely ever interacted with because you just didn't need to. Most of the upgrades were useless, or you'd never actually use them anyway, so what was the point? It made no odds. So please forgive me when I praise upgrades for working as upgrades should, because it's a design choice easily forgotten by some devs, it seems. Enough of all that, what else should I say? Well, I like how you can buy up properties in the city. These provide an hourly cash flow, which is always nice. And if you buy shops, you get a discount there, and you get a safe zone, hence why you can just jump into a clothes shop to lose your notoriety. The more properties you buy, the more control of the districts in the city you get, and the more likely you are to see friendly gang members appearing on the streets, which you can sort of recruit to join you. It's nice. It's not just a case of filling out a checklist, there are real gameplay benefits to doing this, so you want to keep doing this. But I think the thing that stands out to me the most in this game is the story. It's a good story, well told, with strongly written and performed characters. It nails its humour and more out there situations perfectly. I don't want to spoil anything, there's so much I want to talk about this, but I don't want to. I don't want to spoil anything, because I do want to recommend this game to those who haven't played it, so I'm going to be quiet about it. Just know things go very crazy, very fast, and it's a weird delight. I think now it's time for the things that I'm less fond of. Let's talk about those briefly. The brute enemies are a chore. They're these big muscular bullet sponge dudes who run at you and smack you about. Some carry flamethrowers and some carry miniguns which just eat away at your health like mad. God, that's annoying. Every time I saw one, I sighed with reluctance and just tried to destroy the car that they came in so I could quickly get away. There is this one mission that sees you needing to chase a truck and shoot the tyres out.
Wait, no, that doesn't sound so bad.
Oh yeah? Well, let me point out that you're driving in a slow-ass tank, which is hardly a pursuit vehicle in this game, and you cannot shoot the main cannon because you can't blow the truck up, it's got vital payload on it. Then add Pierce, one of your gang members, which I forgot to mention up until now, who's operating the tank's little laser turret on top. I don't know why this tank has a laser turret, but it does. And he shoots it at hostiles even if they're behind the truck that we can't blow up. So it all comes crashing down the second an enemy car gets behind it, he blows the truck up, and then I have to start the bit again.
Ah, brilliant. Now it sounds shit.
Exactly. Some areas of the game, the way in which our character is written and behaves is more of a hindrance than anything fun. And one thing the game forgot to tell me is, while you can, call up your homies to join you in battle, you can't do it until you purchase the upgrade that lets you. I would have thought a gang leader would at least be able to start out with one slot, but you don't even get that. I kept calling my mates and I was like, why can't I recruit anyone? What's going on? Is the game broken or something? But no, it just failed to tell me that I had to buy the upgrade that lets you do that. You're a gang leader. Why isn't this what you start with? And if I'm being perfectly honest, most of the things I find annoying, I can overlook and forgive them and all that because the core of this game is really good.
How does the remaster compare to the original though? After all, we should take into account the improvements and pray to the various gods that this is not another GTA Definitive Edition situation.
Ah, that's a good point and a well-made one. Well, it looks nice. There's a distance fog as well, but I do remember that sort of being in the original, so I'm not too worried. The textures are a bit nicer, and the main cast of characters also look a bit nicer, so yeah. I think it's pretty good. I don't think any of the songs have been, violently cut from the radio, and I didn't notice any major glitches or problems. I mean, I'm not the best judge of how remasters compare to the original when they're so, I mean, the Demon's Souls remake was easier to say because, it was a full I could do remakes better than I could do remasters for comparisons. Before I go off on a tangent, let's just get to the bottom line. It's a competent remaster. Phew, that was close. Saints Row the Third Remastered, it's not Saints Row 3, it's Saints Row the Third. Why do I keep saying 3? I guess 3 is just easier. Is a silly game and a fun game that is good. Some missions, of course, being annoying, but, the most of them? Yeah, we'll keep that in. The most of them are the well-made and the entertaining. There we go. Just own it. Just own your mistakes. How my mum owned me. Characters are varied and interesting, villains are effectively villainous, and all in all, it's just a good time. I still think Saints Row 4 is a better game because you get superpowers and can fight aliens, but Saints Row 3 is pretty damn close, I'll tell you that. It's pretty damn close.